Welcome to the Phillip Wylie Show. Take a look behind the curtain of professional hacking and hear compelling discussions with guests from diverse backgrounds who share a common curiosity and passion for challenges and their job. And now, here's your host, offensive security professional, educator, mentor, and author, Phillip Wylie.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Phillip Wylie Show. Today I'm extremely excited to have Marcus Carey joining today. Marcus Carey and I met through the cybersecurity community on Twitter and got to meet for the first time in person was back in 2019. I think the first time was B-Sides Austin, and then we ran into each other again at HughesCon in 2019, which was the most fun I've had at HughesCon and one of the best times I've ever had at a conference because Marcus was there, Wirefall from Dallas Hackers Association, Isaac that runs DC214, and some other folks, and it was a really amazing time. And one of the things that really reminds me and makes me think of is, when you have those really good times, you need to really learn to live in the moment and enjoy that because you may not get to replicate that moment again. Because there was another time at DEF CON where I don't know if you know Liz Wharton, lawyer Liz, her husband was there. I met for the first time David and his good buddy Ryan English was there. Keenan Skelly, Eric Bellardo, they had all invited me to lunch, and I went over there and we sat there for a couple hours, had the best time ever, and was hoping to duplicate that again last year. But Dave's flight got canceled, and I think he didn't even get to come in, so it didn't happen again. So just thinking back on the regret of not, it's just kind of a reminder to me to enjoy those times better because you may not get to have that specific moment again or that type of opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely live in a moment myself. I try to make the best of it any moment. So, so I definitely feel that. I'm glad that you enjoyed being around me, and
yeah,
I think
fun.
we're gonna have a good time tonight doing this.
Yeah, I think so too. We hadn't really got to caught up. We ran into each other at summer camp recently, but we kind of just saw each other in passing. So we're going to have a good time sharing your story as well as catching up some. So one of the things I also want to share with folks too is Marcus has been one of my big inspirations, his positivity, because one of the things he would post on Twitter that was always a good reminder, because sometimes you have bad days. It's hard to remember that. It's hard and you give in to the negativity. But for me, I just kind of keep it to myself. I don't engage on social media, but just the fact that you used to post be a blessing. And that's one of the things that just kind of, was kind of a reminder to me to try to do that and try to live to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that even if you're having a bad day, sometimes if you can help somebody else out, it kind of peps you up a little bit. I think God created us to help each other out. And there's even like a biblical term that says there's no hands but our hands. So basically, God created us to help other people out, and that's why we get enjoyment and pleasure out of helping our fellow men and women out.
And one of the things I think before we get into the conversation that needs to be shared is even some of the most positive people, and I've talked to some very positive people, and I'm not going to name names, but there's times you talk to people that are positive, and there's times they're having a bad day or something, but they're still positive, and this is the way they are most of the time. So for people listening, you think this is impossible. It's still possible to be positive and do the best because, everyone has a bad day and,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everybody's going to have a bad day. There's going to be bad moments of a day. Everything's not going to go perfect. Life's not perfect. But in generally, I think that we go through bad stuff to help other people out, to be honest with you. Everybody's had terrible experiences, whether it be a momentary thing in a day or some kind of real life crisis that happened to them or happened to their family members and all that stuff. But I still maintain that I think we go through stuff so we can help people out. I think everything you learn is to help somebody else out. If you learn how to hack, it's to help somebody out. It's even if it's pen testing or something like that, right? So I'm all in on whatever skill you attain or whatever experience you have. There is a purpose for that. It's like a movie, because I've tried to do all kind of crazy stuff like write movies or write a screenplay and stuff like that. And there's a thing, and you can and some people probably notice in a movie, if you watch it a movie and you see something happen at the beginning of a movie, like there could be a soda can or it could be a Dr. Pepper machine in there. They say nothing in a movie happens. They don't place anything in a movie unless that's going to be used someplace else in a movie. So that's how our lives are. Your life is on purpose, and everything that you experience is for a reason. And there's going to be a reason or a way to use that skill or a way to use that experience in your life. And so that's how I approach life. And it's kind of crazy. And I just learned that you can definitely be negative about stuff, and you could focus on negative. But what I try to do is I try to focus mainly on positive stuff.
That's good. A good listener is one of the things I try to do from the negative. I try to take a lesson from it. So something bad happens, I try to learn from those experiences.
Yeah, I mean, and also like a lot of times, if you experience a bad childhood or whatever, you kind of learn, okay, that's not the way I'm going to handle that situation. Even if some bad happens or somebody treats you in a way like, hey, I can't do it. It's always an opportunity to learn, no matter what. That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah. So before we get too far into this, for the folks listening that may not know who Marcus Carey is, if you wouldn't mind sharing your hacker origin story, kind of how you got started leading up to what you're doing these days.
Yeah. So how I got started, I'm super fortunate. I'm a lifelong nerd. So, and I kind of, my only regret in life is not embracing my nerd earlier in my life. And I encourage everybody watching this, if you have an inner nerd, just unleash the nerd right now, because that's probably your superpower. So I guess, so being a nerd at an early age, I was really fortunate enough to go to a couple of schools that had gifted and talented programs. Ended up touching a computer for the first time really when I was in school, like the third grade or something like that. In this small town called Mineral Wells, Texas. It's west of Fort Worth. And in Mineral Wells, they had Apple computers there. And when I was in third grade, I got a chance to start coding on computers, and I learned BASIC. And so I learned how to start coding when I was like, I kind of learned coding. To me is like understanding how code works. So I first got exposed to it when I was like 8 years old. I didn't never have a computer at home or anything like that. And then in high school, I took Pascal in programming language because I was always fascinated with computers. I tell people when I was 8 years old, I saw the movie War Games, and when I saw that movie, I was absolutely hooked on wanting to be a hacker. What I found out was a hacker. I wanted to be able to go into computers, interact with computers, and all that stuff. I wanted to do it ever since I saw War Games, no doubt. So, like I said, I got the code when I was probably 8 years old. Learned BASIC. Then I did Pascal, which is another programming language. That's kind of an old school programming language. And then I played a lot of hoops growing up. I wanted to be a professional basketball player, but the only problem is I'm 5'9", so it's not too many 5'9" professional basketball players. I was too slow, so 5'9" and slow. I had a lot of skill, but I wasn't D1. I wasn't a D1 prospect because of my height and I wasn't fast. So I grew up super poor, so I wanted a way to go to college because I always wanted to work with computers, like I said, since War Games. And so I ended up taking the ASVAB, which is the college entry. It's not the college, it's the military entrance exam in the U.S. Every U.S. student pretty much has to take it, I think, back when I was growing up. So I took it, scored pretty good on it, ended up qualifying for cryptographic communications in the Navy. And at 18, I got a chance to be indoctrinated into the U.S. intelligence community, doing cryptography, like SATCOM, signals intelligence, electronic intelligence. I was like in the IC community, being a spy at the age of 18, 19 years old, and stationed at spy bases and doing being on a ship and doing spy stuff. So like legit. You had my OG Jeff Mann on. So I was doing some OG stuff, basically working for NSA for 8.5 years. And yeah, it was great. I mean, I learned so much, and I did a lot of cool stuff. I actually one of the founding team members for this thing called NISRT at NSA, which is their SOC. It's like their big SOC. I kind of accidentally was on the founding team for that team, but I just did a bunch of amazing stuff. I tell people I'm the Black Forrest Gump, so I'm just the luckiest son of a gun on earth, man. It's better to be lucky than good. But I keep on that coding. Even when I first got into the Navy, I started coding. I just wanted to code, and got the NSA. When I was working, I worked in this project called Operation Cybernight, which got rolled into the NISRT when the NISRT was first stood up, and that's how I became a founding member of that. Before there was a SIM, I used to write a bunch of Perl scripts to go out and grab logs and correlate logs. I used to write programs to do that when I was at NSA. So I got this long history of coding and trying to automate stuff. And I'm totally fascinated by that. I've tried to automate everything. I've tried to automate pen testing. I've tried to just anything you could think of when it comes to coding and computers. I probably did it. So I mean, like far as security goes, I've automated scanning. I've automated Metasploit stuff. I've built Metasploit modules. One of my Metasploit modules, the pretty dope that people might have played with, is I wrote the Metasploit keylogger, where you insert the JavaScript tag on a website. You can do keylog sniffing. I wrote that module way back in the day. So I'm always looking for ways to automate stuff, and I built a lot of stuff, man. That's it. That's my hacker origin story. My hacker origin story. Lifelong nerd, the Black Forrest Gump. I keep on running, and I just keep on rolling with it, and it's meant.
That's good. So, what could you explain kind of your transition into civilian life and cybersecurity, what that looked like?
Yeah. So again, when I was at Fort Meade, I was at Fort Meade almost 4 years. So what's interesting about being lucky enough to in the military, I had a top secret clearance, worked at NSA. So at daytime, I did network administration, where I got I was a part of this team called the IP team at NSA. I managed all the global routers for NSA, all the global routers and switches. The switches were local, or it didn't matter where the stuff was. I was on the network team for the NSA. I was the first military member on there too, man. So that was pretty fortunate. So at nighttime, what I did, because a lot of people, if you're in the military, you don't get paid a lot. So you take a nighttime job. When I first got the NSA, I was doing escorting. I was escorting uncleared people in the NSA. But then this opportunity woke up, this opportunity to do night shift doing network security monitoring. And that was that project called Cybernight, where there was IDSs, some of the first IDSs that got deployed to NSA. So funny enough, even when I was in the military, I worked a civilian job at night. That's how I got into cybersecurity. So they had this Cisco for one of the first, it was this so for all the Texans out there, there's this company called Will Group, and they were out of San Antonio. And there's a lot of OGs. These are like the OG Texas hackers. They got acquired by Cisco back in the late 80s, early 90s, and that product became Cisco NetRanger. So my first civilian job was when I was actually in the military, and like I said, writing scripts. We had these things called email walls where we would write scripts to like telnet to them. Telnet was still a thing. You would telnet and grab the logs and try to correlate them, kind of like what a SIM is now. We were writing that stuff from scratch at NSA. So that was my transition happened while I was in the military. And then I got out. I also had another awesome job. I eventually ended up working at the Defense Cybercrime Center, the Defense Cybercrime Center, and I got to work at this thing called the CETA, where I trained federal agents how to do computer forensics and incident response. So I took that knowledge that I had doing incident response at NSA, and this is when I worked for this company called CSC. There was a government contractor, and I taught DoD agents all the, people that carry badges, if they were, DOD, if some of them were military intelligence type people, anybody that's like law enforcement, we train them on how to do digital forensics. So I took that experience from when I was doing incident response at NSA, and then started training people on how to do, how to look through logs and all that stuff, and system administration tasks. We taught police officers how to do it. And so sometimes it was funny because some of the police officers weren't technical at all. So we had this long program on how to teach them how to do everything from starting off with the command line, and then like, oh, boom, this is how, and ended up like at the advanced ones, like advanced log analysis, one of the courses I taught. We taught them how to parse and grep and awk and all that stuff that you would do, to do incident response. So that's kind of like how. So everything is a thread. Remember, I kind of mentioned this already. Everything that happens in your life is going to lead to something else, and you're going to find that true. If you're just starting out, you might be doing a sucky job, a crappy job when you first get in, but trust me, that's going to come in handy. One of the first things I have to do is system administration, where I'm like doing LS and all these different Unix commands. Come to find out, 10 years later, I was teaching people how to do that for forensics. So I always encourage people to skill up and play around with as much things as possible. And there's another key point to that. The more skills you have, the more likely you're going to be able to automate and write software. So instead of like doing LS by hand, I'll write a program to go, in that case where I was doing the stuff at NSA, I would tell that to the machine, go through the directories, pull the stuff. You're a pen tester, same thing. If you get into a box, you need to know all those command lines. So nothing you do will go unused. And like I said, it's like that movie, and even like when I'm watching stuff, and if people love Mr. Robot, some of the stuff that he was doing is some of the first things you learn how to do when you get into tech. So don't shortcut yourself and think that I want to go straight into hacking. Learn some of those basic skills, and it's going to come in handy later. I still do many of these things today.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I think too many people are just trying to get into the field right away, and they want to jump into their dream role, and sometimes they don't get to really cover those basics there. And it's kind of a good lesson, I would say, to kind of piggyback off what you're saying, is kind of like they say, embrace the suck. It may not be fun, it may be a tough job or something, but stick through it. It's going to pay off. Because when I got my first sysadmin job, it was all installs. We were installing NetWare 411, building servers from scratch, going out to branches, migrating data, and installing Windows 95 desktop. So all I did was install all the time, but I could build a server and install it. But then I went to work for this company, a mortgage company, where I ended up staying 14 years. We had our Novell NetWare servers, group-wise servers, had to be rebooted at lunchtime because the hardware limitations, it really didn't have the memory it needed. And then I think just basically the person that I inherited that system from when he was leaving didn't really know how to administer it. So at lunchtime, we'd reboot the server so it would work properly. But that job, I was getting called in the middle of the night all the time. There was only 3 of us on the team trying to trade on call. There were 2 of us that were mid-level and a bunch of new people. So we were constantly getting called whether we were on call or not. And at one point I was ready to quit, but I thought, I had all this time of doing installs and I can install my sleep. I really need to learn to troubleshoot. I stuck it out. Our environment got more stable. We got the resources we needed, but I learned some very valuable lessons on troubleshooting along the way.
For sure. You learn the most when something's breaking. So
yes.
When everything's stable, you don't learn. And to your point, you said that there was a system administrator in that role, but sometimes I see that all the time. That happened. I saw that even when I was at NSA, where people would be in certain roles and you think that person is a god. But what I learned in life is the people that actually know what they're doing are the most willing to share.
Yes.
So most of the people there's a lot of people out here that really don't know what they're doing in the role they're in, and they're scared to death, and they're just hanging on by a thread, and keeping those roles. And that's so funny to me because I remember when I first started doing Cisco stuff, when somebody was kind of like doing OJT training for me and was doing commands and stuff, And I was asking what the commands are, because in Cisco, you can like do a shortcut commands. You might know if you ever played around with Cisco, you can do a shortcut where you don't have to type out the whole command. But what I noticed is that I was asking this person, what does that command mean? So that person would say conft, CONFT. And I didn't know what that meant. And like, what does that conft mean? Right. But then I started taking a CCNA course, and it says it's configure from terminal. So there's people that will shortcut and not learn all the stuff that they really should know from an administration perspective. And what you find is that once you start learning, you know you're gonna quickly outpace them if you put in the work. And this is why I tell people all the time, don't gatekeep yourself for far as applying for jobs. Because 9 times out of 10, like if you feel that imposter syndrome or whatever they feel, it's totally natural to have imposter syndrome or not thinking. But I guarantee you, there's people out there that are getting paid a lot of money for your dream job that don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah, that's true. It's amazing sometimes. But kind of one of the things I remember back from old IT days too is, did you ever work with anyone that didn't want to share because it was job security? They were worried that they'd be replaced if they taught someone else.
For sure. And like getting back to that point, I got a great story about this. So I've always learned how to do a job, and then I use code to automate it. So when I started doing Cisco configurations are just text files, right? So I already knew how to do. I told you I was doing coding and scripting. So I knew Perl. Perl was like the Python back in the day, if y'all don't know. So we had this big network migration where we were decommissioning these old pieces of equipment, but the old piece of equipment still had text configurations. So what I did is I wrote a script to take all the files, all the old configurations, and convert them to Cisco iOS. Again, learn how to do something once manually. I learned all right, this is how you take this configuration and change it to a Cisco device. So I wrote a script that did hundreds of these at a time. So I had civilians there. I was in the military doing this. I had civilians that didn't want to use the output of my script. The output of my script was perfect. Only thing you had to do is paste it into a new device. But I would have civilians, they would type in each thing line by line every day, wasting crazy amount of time. And I was like, hey man, I already did all the configurations here. You can do this. Oh no, I don't trust it. So people are weird. And when it comes to them getting paid and like, or he's on the clock, he doesn't want to do anything else. I mean, I don't know why people do weird stuff like that, bro. But people are weird, man. And because like how I look at it is automation, and I'm big into AI now. Automation is going to save you time where you don't have to type in something line by line, hand by hand. You don't have to do that. You could actually be working on a bigger problem or learning how to solve bigger problems. So I highly encourage, like I said, learn the basics, learn how to script that basic, and then move on to harder problems.
So someone starting out nowadays, what language would you recommend for someone scripting wise?
So I think Python is the most prevalent thing for scripting. So I recommend Python. You're going to get a lot of mileage out of that, and Python is definitely good. I like building web apps. So I'm a big fan of TypeScript and Node.js. So I do a lot of stuff in this thing called Next.js, where I build full-fledged web applications. You can build web applications with Python too, but usually you're going to have to use JavaScript, at least for a front end, either React or something like that. But yeah, so start where you are. Start by automating simple tasks that you care about. The worst way to learn how to code is to work on something you don't care about. So, and many times when you take a course, what you're doing in that course is you're working on these projects that have nothing to do with your life. So, when I first started, when I was an adult, the first project that I was working on is I was trying to build a database for my music collection, because I'm a big hip hop head, and I was trying to catalog all the music I had. So I built a database to do that, and then I ended up building a database for work. So and still to this day, I learn a lot on my own personal time. I'll learn how to do a task, and then I can actually transfer that job to my day job. Okay, cool. I learned how to do this. All right, cool. I can actually solve a problem and work doing that. So find something you're passionate about. Another story that I tell a lot is that when my son is 28 now, and I'm probably getting his age wrong. He's either 28 or 29. I'm terrible with ages and names, but I know his name. His name is Aaron. So when he was like 11 or 12, something like that, what I did is he hated doing his homework. So what I did is I was like, hey, cool, man, you can actually write a program to do your homework for you. And so I started teaching him how to do mathematical formulas in Python, because he always had a Mac. My son had the first iPhone. He's a spoiled brat. I love you, son, if you ever watch this. But he was jailbreaking iPhones. So he learned, my son had, when he was 16, he had about 5 or 6 iPhone apps in the iPhone store. He was writing code in Objective-C, Java, Ruby, Python, Perl. He was doing all these languages when he was just a kid, right? And so so and how I got him to learn how to code was I got him to start coding his math programs. Again, so he had skin in the game. He didn't want to do his math, so he could write a program to actually do his math programs for him. So, input A, input B equals blah, 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 or whatever the formula was. I taught him how to write that formula in code. So it turns out my son he worked for Rapid7 for 10 years. He ended up doing really cool stuff. Like, he kind of like wrote like the Metasploit cloud stuff. So my son's is absolute beast mode. And now he does AI stuff for GitLab. He does a lot of AI stuff for their core AI team. But yeah, so he learned how to code by tackling a problem they didn't want to do. He also wanted to do video games, so I kind of helped him. I kind of like, all right, boom, this is how you do a game. And then he just took off and was to the races. Like I said, I really was trying to solve a problem where I was trying to catalog my music, and then I ended up supporting and building a database for the government on tracking classified material. So I was during nighttime I was trying to track my CDs, but during the daytime when I was at I was at a classified facility and they needed to keep track of classified media. So the same skill, tracking CDs, tracking classified material, it was the same skill set, if that makes sense. And I do the same thing to this day. And so I play around with AI a lot now, and then I go to work and I build AI applications.
Very cool. So I know you were kind of always, last time I saw you at Dallas Hackers Association, you were into some of the blockchain stuff and some of the Web3. And I don't know if Wirefall was telling me before you got on the stage, you were actually working on like a blockchain C2 or something, coding that before you went on stage to do your demo.
Yeah. So, again, another application of trying to understand how stuff works, how blockchain works. So basically I wrote this program, and I demoed it there where you could write a C2 on the blockchain. And what's cool about that is that if you write it on a blockchain, it would be pretty hard to take that C2 down. So, I mean, those are the kind of things that, again, you kind of learn how to do something. And I still think I'm still bullish on, I think the term is bullish on blockchain technology. I think there's a lot of applications that we'll see in the future with blockchain. It was hyped up for sure for a second. And also I feel the same way with AI right now. AI is kind of like a big hype cycle. We're probably in the middle of that hype cycle still, but it's a lot of people are down on AI right now and down on LLMs and stuff. But I'm like 100% in on LLMs and AI right now. I'm 100% bought in. I'm 100% thinking that this is the future and people need to learn as much as they can about it.
So as far as, your coding, your scripting, all that's really helped be a force multiplier for you. So what kind of advantage is AI giving you? How much more is that improving your productivity?
I mean, you probably know that, with AI, you can actually do awesome stuff. Like you can have the AI code for you, right? You can have the AI. There's these things that got released, even like I did a talk last year at LastCon where I showed where AI can do function calling. So anything with an API, you can have an AI operate. So you can write a pin. So some of the things I've been working on that's pretty cool. We got a pretty cool team where I'm at. I'm at ReliQuest now. So we built something that operates. We built AI that operates Cobalt Strike. We built AI that uses all kind of APIs like VirusTotal and name an API. So we've kind of automated. We built a AI SOC analyst pretty much by being able to use all the different things, building tools, and there's a lot of stuff coming out, man. It's and people are just discovering new ways to use LLMs now. There's some really cool stuff. If y'all want to read up on some tree of thought stuff and just some really cool techniques that will blow your mind. And my mind is blown by AI right now. And I see a lot of people talking bad about it. And I'm like, y'all just don't know. They tripping, man. They're not, because like I said, we're doing some bleeding edge stuff where I'm at, and I'm all in 100% all AI right now.
Yeah, it's cool that it's accessible now compared to before ChatGPT, how, only a few people, unless you're working AI, didn't have any access to it. But it's really cool now that now you've got people using creativity to figure out ways to solve other problems and how to do things that it really wasn't intended for, because I really doubt there was probably a lot being done around cybersecurity until it kind of got into the hands of the cybersecurity community.
Yeah, you're right. And like I noticed a long time ago, I've actually been, you probably know John Strand of Black Hill Security. He told me a long time ago, and you can ask him, they actually him and Paul Asadorian a long time ago wrote this book. It was like a countermeasures book. I bought the book, and in the book, they talked about how you can pretty much track people by doing something. So I actually took what the information in their book, and I wrote a program to do it called HoneyDocs. So basically, I wrote essentially the first thing is kind of like like a canary. You know how you got canary, and people know about that. Well, I wrote that way before it existed.
That's cool.
And John's, that's me. I'm always inventing stuff, man. I'm telling you. So you see my dog, he just busted in here. But I saw your cat earlier. So
my cat usually makes a cameo in some of these podcast episodes.
So this is my baby boy Jake. So anyway, so John told me, I was like, man, you're a great technologist, but you're terrible businessman. because I'm always building on something like that, and always doing bleeding edge stuff. And at the end of the day, I'm doing okay. And but that's what I'm always doing. I'm always taking something like, oh, you can actually do this, and then it's easy to automate once you know how to code. And the reason why I build web applications, and the reason why I like to build web applications, is because sometimes people build tooling, and that tooling is command line. And I'm like, I don't want to use all those flags and -T, -this, nobody's going to remember that. So I took a page from like Steve Jobs or Apple playbook and just try to build easy applications for people to use. And that's through the web. So that's it's like the same thing every time for me. It's like, oh, this is how you do this manually, and you can, and then I just figure out how to put it in a web app. So that's how it goes. And I built a company with that same philosophy, and I sold my company, and now I build a lot of, skunk work projects for where I'm at right now. And like I said, right now, heavily using AI, leveraging AI to do stuff from like even build the code to executing other APIs. OpenAI came out with something called OpenAI Functions, where you can actually do function calls. It's just insane, bro. Like, it's just crazy where we're at right now.
Yeah, I think it's really gonna be interesting to see, because you were talking about building the web front ends to some of this. It's gonna be interesting to see how much easier it is to use some of these chat bots and stuff, because now, having to know how to do prompt engineering and all that, and really have to really know it pretty well to get things out of it, that the average person, it could be kind of a learning curve for them. But it looks like everyone's trying to work towards making it easier to use and doing the type of things you're talking about. I could see making it more easier to use, more accessible to people that aren't super technical.
Yeah, I think so. And the thing that I'm really thinking about a lot is that people care more about outcomes than they do about all the other stuff. And I think sometimes I don't think the future is chatbots per se. I don't think that's the future. I think the future is just taking the outcome, just doing, for instance, like doing a whole incident response and then giving you the results without you asking it to do it. Basically, having the AI monitor the network, monitor the alerts, do it. That's the future. All right. The future is here's a company, pen test that website for me. And you got permission to pen test this website. And it's going to do everything that you normally would do as a pen tester. And I believe that if you can run a tool by click, 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 if there's an API, 100% it can be done. But I think that there's going to be a human in the loop. It's not going to get rid of all the humans. It's just going to make us way more productive. In Austin now, that there's a school, at least one school now in Austin, that for every kid in their classroom, it has an AI assistant. And the teacher is the human in the loop in managing all the AIs that are help teaching all the students. So that's where this is all going. And in cybersecurity, you're going to have a security analyst, and that security analyst is going to be able to be way more proficient because they're not going to have to do the virus total lookups and all the different manual stuff they do. The AI is going to do all the stuff, and it's going to bring back the information to it, and it can make a decision, good, bad, ugly. And sometimes the AI is going to know, oh, that's a duplicate, or this is that. The AI is good enough to do that too. But I think you're going to have a human in the loop in many cases. But what that does for say, like, you're going to have, your team is going to be way more sufficient. I don't believe AI is going to like replace all security jobs or replace all pen test jobs or not like that. But what I do believe is that is going to make us way more better at what we do, so we can focus on stuff that really that the human mind is way better than. I don't think AI is good at in computers in general, are good at automating. Like I said, when I was at NSA, we had this thing. We had to do hundreds of old configs, convert them into new configs, and deploy these new systems. We had people that want to manually do it. And you're still going to have organizations that want to manually respond to stuff. But that's not a winning strategy. Hope this makes sense.
Yeah. It's just got to happen to be able to scale, because, there's so much work that needs to be done. And then with the staff people have, it's need to be scaled. Even just looking at pen testing, because I work for a company that has an autonomous pen testing product. And it just only makes sense to do more automation, because at one time there wasn't vulnerability scanners, but you really couldn't imagine doing pen tests now when you've got a lot of assets to test without using a vulnerability scanner. And just those tools and stuff that we previously had just aren't enough. But it only makes sense that we would do more automation to be able to scale, the teams that we have.
Yeah, 100%. And that's it. So there's a really good book on AI called The Fourth Age, and it talks about throughout civilization, technology. Here's comes Jakes again. Yeah, I thought he was out. He said he's going to make another appearance. So the fourth age, what it's talking about is like throughout history, technology has always created better jobs. It's eliminated some jobs, but at the end of the day, the human is always going to have a better job at the end of the day. So instead of doing, a bunch of lookups on virus total or pasting stuff to virus total, the AI is going to do all that stuff for you, and you might can get into reversing or malware analysis or some better thing to do with your time that a human can do better, right? But in the near future, you're gonna see AI doing really good malware analysis and stuff too. But it's gonna basically, I think there's always going to be humans in the loop though. And so it's not going to really kind of totally replace stuff that we're doing.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes for AI is AI won't replace you. A person using AI will.
Oh man, for sure. I 100% live by that. Yeah, you're right. So like, that's you absolutely right.
Yeah. I know someone that does marketing for a company. I think they're like a CMO, and he does marketing for that company, but he's got like his side business. And so he's doing all this stuff, marketing his stuff through AI. He's figured out how to do it, and he's able to scale and just take on, quite a few clients because he's figured out how to use AI to be a force multiplier of his efforts.
I think I might know the same guy. I think I might know him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty interesting times. But I think one of the things would be a missing opportunity if we don't discuss, kind of part of your legacy. That's the Tribe of Hackers book series.
Yeah. So certainly, and I think I got a couple of them right over here. There's two of those books. So one of the things that I've always been is I've always been approachable, and funny enough, and I've always have, I got a lot of friends that are even kind of famous in security, and I've always I'm a down to earth guy. You met me before in person. I'm the same guy as you see on the internet, on Twitter. I'm the same person in real life.
Yes,
for the most part. Am I right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what I do is I always have rapport with all these people, but at a conference, and you actually got a name for yourself now. So I'm pretty sure you see people looking at you, but they kind of scared to approach you.
Yes. Yeah.
They're but I know you because you cool with that, right?
Yeah. But definitely.
But some people even might be I don't care if people approach me personally, but some people are maybe more introverted and they may have a big name or whatever, right? So, and sometimes people are scared of them and sometimes people are introverted. So it's man, people want to ask all my friends questions. But they're scared to approach them. So that's why I did Tribe of Hackers, because I wanted to all these awesome people. But the biggest thing that happened out of Tribe of Hackers, this is so funny. So I had some of my friends that had big names, but I was on Twitter so long, I knew there was people that didn't have big names. Then I was like, this person has something to say. So I ended up elevating a lot of people, and those people after Tribe of Hackers,
yes,
they became rock stars, wrote books, wrote all this other stuff. So that's the legacy of Tribe of Hackers that I'm most proud of, because I did have people that were well-known entrepreneurs, multimillionaires. Some of the guys Ron Gula, Doug Song, these guys have made it and can retire right now, right? But I had people on there that nobody ever heard of, even in the first ones. But if you look now, this is almost 10 years later. It's amazing how fast time goes. It's not quite 10 years. It's at least 5 years though. All these years later, most of those people in those books, what they're doing is they're being a blessing to the next generation. So the true legacy of Tribe of Hackers is it introduced people to a lot of badasses like you, even.
Thank you.
And then people got to follow people, but I just have a eye for talent, to be honest with you. That's my blessing. My true blessing is and they say I have a saying in the hood, real recognize real. So I have the ability to recognize real people. And like I said, anywhere I've ever been, whether it be my first duty station in Scotland, I was at NSA spy base. It was GCHQ, all this spy stuff, man. But there was people there that was smart, and there's people that weren't smart. I mean, everybody that works at NSA is not smart. But there are people there that will help you out and tell you everything they know, spill their guts, right? When I got to NSA proper, when I was stationed at Fort Meade at NSA, there was people there, spill their guts, boom, tell you everything. And that's the kind of people, that's what Tribe of Hackers is what's the answer to this and whatever. And like I said, I am most proud of those people that were in that book were the kind of people that I've always been attracted to, is the people that are spilling their guts. And I'm not kidding you. I was people there with no Twitter followers. And then I look now, some of the people have 100,000 followers on Twitter that were in that book, and nobody knew who anybody was in that book. I mean,
Yep.
some like, and if you have that book is still good for that purpose of the people in those books are badasses, still worth the follow, and still most of them, a high percentage of the people, because like I would look for people that were helping people out. That's how they got in the book. The book wasn't about, because even like the people that I had in there, like a Ron Gula was in that same NSA shop I was in, bro. Like, and Doug Song has always been a badass, but he always spilled his guts. He's that kind of person. So those are the kind of people that I've always gravitated to, and those are always people that reciprocated and told me whatever they knew. And anytime you've asked me something, I tell you everything I know. If I wanted to ask you something, you gonna tell me everything you know. So that's how we're supposed to be. That's how this whole tribe makes it. And so that's what Tribal Hackers is about. Check out the books. You should, if you know, people in that book are still being a blessing. Many of the people in that book have their own communities and doing badass stuff, 0 days, all this stuff. And like I said, some of them didn't even have some of that stuff when they were, but I knew they were badasses. And I was like, boom, you want to be in the book? And I'm laughing because there's people that didn't want to be, there's people that didn't want to be in there. And like, I've had people that were insulted because they weren't a part of it, but I didn't, it wasn't even about that. Like, hey, why didn't you ask me? And I was like, my bad, bro. You know, if we do another one, there'll be another one. So there's no plans of having another one though right now. I can say that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome. It was helpful to me because actually my book deal with Wylie would kind of helped out through that, because I'd shared on LinkedIn about being in the Tribal Hackers Red Team. And then I had Jim reach out for me, Jim Minitel from Wylie, say, hey, you get any book ideas? And my Pentester Blueprint conference talk, which started out as a college lecture, I thought it would be a good idea to turn into a book, and it did. So that was a huge help for me. Another fun thing about the book too is I forget the lady's name, but I ran into a woman at B-side San Francisco in 2019 and never heard of her before, but had saw her in the book. And it's just kind of cool getting to meet some of these people you see in the book. So it's some people you may not even known about, but it was kind of cool to be able to make those connections in a good way for folks new to the community or people that are not really connected, because there's a lot of people that may have been in the industry for a while, but they're not connected to the community, because it kind of blows my mind to go to conferences sometimes. I was at HUSECCon one year and I was talking, sharing something that I heard from Jake Williams, Malware Jake. Person I was talking to didn't even know who Malware Jake was. And for me, it's like, how do you not know? But, some people just aren't connected to the community.
And, and I respect that, because how I operate is I've always been a more fan of the skill than I'm a fan of technical prowess in the skills. Everybody's in it for some different. There's people in the community that aren't technical at all, and that's fine, right? There's three type of people, I would say, kind of like three type of people in the community. Some of them are about the craft, some of them are about the scene, and some of them are in it just for the money. Now, you can be a combination of all those things. You can enjoy the scene and all that stuff. But what I try to do is I try to tell people, be yourself. That's the most important thing. You don't have to dress a certain way or get a mohawk or whatever, right? Just be yourself. And it's okay. Whatever you here for, if you just want to learn how to pick locks and all that stuff, that's perfect. If you want to go because you like the vibe of the hackers, and there's people that like that. They just like to hang out with the hackers. And there's some people that like, I want this as a career and I want to do XYZ. So wherever your reason is, even if you don't know who the heck Marcus is, and you don't know who Phillip Wylie is and all that stuff, you're welcome. So, and we need all kind of individuals. We need people just to hang out with, just to be cool and be stressed. We need that, yes. Right? We need good people. They don't have to be the most technical beast or whatever. We do need technical prowess as well. We need people that actually can solve the hard technical issues. And we need people that have created businesses and are about money, because at the end of the day, that's how we get paid, right? And that's how we can we can have nice little microphones that we can talk into, and that's what pays the bills. So you kind of need them all, and all of them are okay. But I'm really adamant on, and I love people that just share what they know. You know, there's people that know the lore of every DEF CON and all this different things, and that's great too, right? There's people that could like, I know people that know how to crack passwords, and that's what their specialty is. They know anything possible about cracking passwords. So pick something that you love, and again, pick something you love, because what's important about that is that's the only way you're going to get good. And just because somebody else loves it don't mean anything. Find something that you're absolutely passionate about, and crush it. That's why I tell her.
That's great advice, because I've seen cases where people go in, because everyone, if you watch any movies, you think cybersecurity is about hacking. So when people come in, they think that's all there is to do. And then sometimes they're not really getting a good view of what pen testing really is. And if they really knew how it was, they may not like it. But I think it's really good for people to get out there and see other things, because I had a coworker when I worked at US Bank. He was before I started there, he was on the help desk, and he'd moved on to the pen testing team. But he was originally taking SANS courses for digital forensics. And then he decided that he was going to take a pen testing course to help him with his digital forensic skills. He took the GPen course, fell in love with it, and the guy's been a pen tester now for probably about 8 years now, and loved it. If he hadn't taken the pen test course, he wouldn't have really found his true passion.
I love it. I love to hear it. And yeah, so I think that sometimes that, like, if you heard anybody say they played in NBA, some of the players love playing basketball. Some of the players don't love basketball, but the ones that are really good and have long careers, they say, I just love the game. I just love playing basketball. And in cybersecurity, like, at the point where I just love trying to automate and make it easy to do what we do. I just love to automate. And that's been the thread throughout my career on what I've always done. Even founding a company that does, breach and attack simulation is what the company I built does. That product still exists at ReliQuest, but now I'm doing all kind of AI stuff and doing, analysts and building SOC analysts from AI, and just automating. That's what I love to do. And so that's why it's not really a job. It's just like having fun, And if you love pen testing, maybe that's just having fun. My buddy that's a password cracker, he runs the password cracking village at DEF CON. He just loves talking about cracking passwords. That's all he do. So that's so find what you're passionate about, try to align that. So what you're passionate about is mostly your superpower is going to be aligned to that. Like, that's probably going to be your superpower too. So what happens is, like, most of the time stuff just comes natural. My wife is a natural listener. I'll tell you, my wife can meet anybody and people spill their guts like she's a therapist, like, automatically. That's her superpower, listening. And I need a good therapist. So it's good I married her.
That's a rare superpower, because getting people to listen, sometimes it's like they say, you've got 2 ears for a reason to listen more than you talk.
You know what I'm saying? And you can see I can talk all day. But yeah, find your superpower, find what you're truly passionate about, and try to pursue it as much as you can.
So we're getting down to the last few minutes of the episode. Is there anything you'd like to share?
Well, I just want to encourage everybody that just don't gatekeep yourself. And also, as much as you can, the more you try to help people out, and Phillip knows this, I know this because I've taught people. So if anything, if you want to be a real beast at what you're doing, try to help somebody else out, and try to help somebody else learn the trade. That could be even like maybe you and your partner, if you're trying to break into security, maybe studying with each other, and then maybe finding somebody that's a little bit further behind than you are to help them along the way. Because, like, to actually, when you can start teaching something, it. And, like, have you ever heard, like, what's funny is I'm learning Spanish right now, and they say if you start dreaming in Spanish, that means when you master the language. Well, anything I've ever done, I start doing it in my dream or not even thinking about it. I walked up the ATM machines and tried to enter Cisco commands back in the day because I was all in and I was trying to show the interface on an ATM to see my balance. Or I'm coding in my sleep and making solutions in my head, and then I wake up and then oh, that's how you figure that problem out. So that's kind of how my mind works. And what I do is everything I know, as I've always teach somebody. I've taught so many people and mentored so many people. And one of the things that I tell people is if you're living your life right, I talk about being a blessing. You're going to be a blessing to more people on accident than you are on purpose. Being a blessing should be a byproduct of your life. So are you helping people out? In when I say you might not be a formal teacher, but if you pick up some game, maybe write a blog post on it. Maybe put a tweet out. Maybe on LinkedIn. Hey, I just saw this. Just reposting something. That can be a blessing to somebody. So sharing, Barney says sharing is caring. So, but those are the people that truly in my life, the people that share information, they're the ones winning. So learn something, teach somebody else. Learn something, share it with somebody else. And that's the way we all win as a civilization. At the end of the day, you can I want everybody out there to try to be a superhero and try like, because like in reality, bro, and I talk about this all the time too, is like, we're all acting, man. We acting like we hackers. I'm acting like I know something about coding. But the cool thing is you learn the role. Like Denzel or whoever your favorite actor is, they learn the dang role and they play it. So anything in cybersecurity, the role is if you go to LinkedIn and you look at it and say, oh, this is what I have to know to play that role. That's like Denzel. I need to learn. I have to have a Southern accent, or I have to do this. And then they'll go learn the background of the history of the person that they're playing. That's all life is. We're just all acting. But you can pick the role. You could absolutely pick the role that you're going to play. So I want to be a hacker that helps people out, or whatever that character is that you have in your head, you can become that character. And so that's why I want to encourage everybody to just pursue their dream, and you can do it. I was the poorest kid growing up, poorest kid on this earth, bro. I mean, as far as like around where I'm from, right? And I know that's relative. There's people in other countries, third world countries, that are way worse than me. But I'm saying in America, I was broke. So and now I have an amazing career, super blessed, 4 kids, wife, 3 dogs. And so, but it's because I'm crazy enough to believe that I can do whatever that I kind of want to do. And I found what I love, and I found what I like to do. And I just pursue it like crazy. And I just want to just encourage everybody that if, I'm just a dumb country boy from Marlin, Texas. if you can, and sometimes me and Phil, we be talking about old school wrestling and all this stuff. We just normal people. So if you think, I just want people to know that you just have to start where you're at. You're not going to be, you're not going to be a Phillip Wylie overnight. But just start where you're at and just look at the job rec where you want to do. Look at what's the requirement for the positions, and then just pursue it like a crazy person, like I've done. And that's how I got to where I'm at. And I hope to see you guys and, you guys on the top. I've seen so many people win. I mean, it's like y'all can win too. So that's all I got, man. Hopefully that's helpful to somebody. But
it was great.
Man.
Yeah, it was great catching up and great. I look forward to sharing your story with some folks. And one of the things that I love about this podcast, one of the things it does is it encourages people to show them it can be done. And, can't think of a better person to have on here to help encourage people that they can do it. Because, at the end of the day, it's just really sometimes people just need to be proved that they can do it. And that's just very valuable. I've had people, one of my favorite stories was from podcasting. I ran into a couple of Hack SpaceCon last year. They showed up at the conference. They came because I was teaching a workshop. He listened to my podcast, and when he stepped away, his wife said, "Thanks for doing your podcast. There are times you encouraged him when I couldn't." And it was the stories of my guests that he heard that encouraged him, made him believe in himself to complete his coursework, because he was a construction engineer going to school for cybersecurity, and a father of 2 children and a wife, and working full time and going to school. And when you hear stuff like that, it's great. And that's one of the things, just the stories help encourage people. And so, yeah, it's awesome to have you on here. Like-minded person, one of my inspirations to tell me to be a blessing, and good to have you on here, blessing many more.
Hey, you know what's funny though is like you're living life right. Remember I told you?
Yeah.
So I say there's a couple of different things. There's like 3 things that I live by. Like, I want to be a blessing to everybody I interact with. Right. That's number 1. Right. Also, be a blessing to more people on accident than you're on purpose. And so that's it, man. You're doing it. Congratulations. It's also when you hear
thanks.
it's also when you hear those stories. And sometimes it's the wildest. It's like it's unexpected. And like I said,
it keeps you going.
That's what we're built for, because that gives you this little endorphin. It's like drugs. It's like, oh snap, that is awesome. And like I said, I think that's how we're wired, man. We're wired to that's what makes, like, human civilization. Like, when I sometimes go out in the wilderness, and every once in a while you might get a chance, like, I've been in the middle of the sea where it's pitch black and all that stuff, and I will leave you on this because I can talk forever. Sorry about that. What I noticed is, like, humanity survived in the middle deserts, oceans, like wilderness, all that stuff. And the reason why is because we helped each other out. And so sometimes I'm scared that we forget that. Like, we're symbiotic. We help each other out. And so sometimes I worry that we might forget that. But that's why helping each other out is good for us. And that's why we keep doing it, and it feels good when you do it. So, and I don't understand the opposite. So we're not even going to speak on it, but let's just be a blessing to everybody. All right, man. I appreciate you for having me. You're awesome. You inspire me too.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to have you on the show, and thanks for the kind words. And like I said, happy to be able to share your story with folks that haven't heard your story yet, and for some people that know of you to go away knowing a little bit more about you. So thanks.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to The Phillip Wylie Show. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. In the meantime, to learn more about Phillip, go to thehackermaker.com and connect with him on LinkedIn and Twitter @Phillip Wylie. Until next time.